Get to know all your favorite VRChat DJs all in one place. This is VRCDJLIVE.
Always something to talk about here on the program, and wouldn't you know it, we're talking with everybody, all of your favorites, everyone in the community. And we even had a lot of people that I was talking with in Miami Music Week about how many people were actively in our community. And I'm over here just being like, there's way too many. There's way too many. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like everybody should be able to talk about what we got going on here in our scene. So please, everybody, welcome yourselves in to VRCDJ Live. I'm Rob Roman, your host. And if you're brand new to this program, welcome on in. We talk with everyone from DJs to club owners to producers to songwriters to dancers to pretty much anybody that helps us out in this community. And it is a very fun way to have you engaged to not only be interested in joining us in here, but get the inside scoop of what we've got going on in our community anyway. So welcome yourselves on in. So glad to have you here. And joining us today in the studio, been in the VRChat scene since 2018, mostly recognized by the yearly assembling of GearFest, DJ producer with a few tracks up on Spotify, and as stated a little bit earlier ago, a couple of weeks ago, coming to a city near you in 2025, which we're going to get into. Please welcome DJ Gearbolt to VRC DJ Live. Hey, good to have you here.
Happy to be here, dude.
It's funny enough, I like stopped in and you were like almost camped out in the front, just being like, dude, yeah. I know our show's not until a half an hour from now, but we're ready to go.
100%. Yeah, no, I've been waiting to do this show for a minute. I've been watching it since the first episode, so you know, you guys do a fantastic job with the layout and everything. It's really cool to kind of see how you've put this together, and it's smooth. I really like that. It's a smooth kind of introduction into the VR podcasting from a different perspective, I suppose.
It's fun for me too, especially because I think a lot of people don't recognize the fact that I have been working in radio for the past 10 years. And I'm not saying that radio is dying. I can't really say that out loud, but it's kind of dying. But at the same time too, like there has to be a way that we can help promote the people that are doing some amazing things in VRChat, especially as of recently. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point in time. It's one of the hotter topics of the fact that, you know, VRChat's reputation, besides being a free game, as well as what people have been seeing on YouTube, doesn't really balance out equally comparable to what type of content is being pushed out onto YouTube. But I feel like this is a really fun time to just not only bring in some really cool talent, but also get to, you know, get some time to sit down with some of the greats and be able to see what you got cooking.
100%, man. Yeah, I mean, there is that stigma. VRChat is not so much a game as it is a community of people. It's become a whole, almost like another dimension. In itself, you are stepping into another dimension, but it's the community that is in VRChat is so vast. If you want to do something, if you want to go to a skate park, there is a skate park in VRChat. If you want to go to the movies, there's movies in VRChat. There are categories and groups for almost anything you can think of in this game, if you want to call it a game. But you know, it's a lot more vast. It's so vast.
And it's also really helpful too, the fact that the groups, I wouldn't say it's the groups category, but it's the groups now that not only get to showcase what people have kind of cooking, but at the same time too, like even conventions or festivals, which we're going to get into, being able to just kind of open that up. And it's not even just a matter of us wanting to come in here because of virtual reality, or I mean, I wouldn't even want to guess the fact that if you love anime, like this is kind of the place to come in here and kind of become the anime or what have you. But now the DJs literally have a space where we can kind of come in and kind of work off of each other to see what's the latest, greatest, what works the best, what doesn't work. Maybe you want some skills. So just having this community alone is so amazing. And for those people that are having a hard time understanding what we got going on, that's why we got this program. This is the reason why we're here, to talk about it. And I know that's one of the things that's like, I know you're really giddy about the fact that besides GearFest, the fact that like DJing in here, it's just fun to talk about DJing just amongst everybody.
100%. I've done my own podcast from years past in VR, and I've had episodes where I've had DJs on, and just there's such a community in this scene with DJs specifically, as well as like dancers and club owners. It's kind of a niche because, like I said, it's such a vast landscape. But the niche of the DJ side of things is so cool because it's not only the layout of the VR side of things versus the IRL club scene and that kind of thing. They're so similar. They have so many similarities between that tie them. You'll go into a club and you can look around and see like your bouncers and your security team, and then you've got your club promoter over there, and then you jump in VR chat and it's the same kind of layout. You've got your security team, you've got your guys over there running everything, your lighting, it's not a one-to-one thing, but I mean, there's so many similarities. Speaking of security guys, Mr. Ropai, shout out Ropai. Ropai's great. Ropai loves this show. So, yeah, and it's just such a vast landscape of creativity and community that there's so much potential with it. And when it gets a bad stigma, something that is labeled. Putting labels on a game like this is really common, and we've talked about it. It's an unfortunate thing that happens to coincide with the ongoings of the game. It's VR chat drama and many other things like that. That's just one of many things, but
Obviously the drama does kind of go everywhere with us, and well, not just with us within the community. That tends to just happen in any community, to be honest. But even since the past couple of years, it's been really refreshing, the fact that we can all get together and collaborate and talk to each other, and kind of even just kind of feed off of each other's energies, maybe even learning about new upcoming festivals and whatnot. But having that type of community comparable to what it used to be back in the day is again super exciting to not only be able to showcase, but also we can have a show like this and not have to worry too much about either trolls coming in, because they're going to get bored pretty easily if they don't want to be talking about DJing overall. And that fact, for VRCDJ Live, it is a live program. We're here for 2 hours. We're going to be talking with DJ Gearbolt and all the stuff that he's got going on for the remainder of this year and maybe even to the future. So even though it is a live program, everyone in chat, you're more than welcome to drop off some of your most dire questions. Maybe you are wanting to get into the scene, and maybe you want to start a festival yourself. I know we're going to be talking a lot about the upcoming festival, but also be able to get to know DJ Gearbolt overall. So if you have any pressing questions, you feel like you should be able to ask him, especially since he's going to be going on tour in a little bit, so he might not be as reachable as you may think. This is your opportunity to do that. And funny enough, you got so many accomplishments that you have done in since 2018, and I know we were going back and forth about the fact that you have been in here for such a long time, including the fact of your DJing and including the fact that you're making music, and you also do a lot of behind the scenes stuff with like guitar and drums and stuff like that. What got you in here in the first place?
So it's I, like many others, had seen memes and Uganda Knuckles and all of that kind of like late 2017 into early 2018. There was so much meme culture with this game, and I kind of had no real idea of what the possibilities of VR chat even were. At the time, like, I got on desktop just to kind of mess around and see what was popular. The things that were popular back then was like the Great Pug. I would always hang out in the Great Pug and meet people, and there weren't that many users at that time. Like back then, there was not that much player base. It wasn't as well known of a game as it is now, and even now it's still growing. But back then, I would just mess around and in desktop, and I kind of got into it just from watching like other VR creators, and VR at the time was still pretty expensive, and so I wasn't able to get VR till like the middle of 2018. I ended up getting the Quest. It's a Rift. It's the Oculus Rift, the original. So that's what I'm still using, and it runs great. I have had no problems with this headset at all. So, but yeah, I ended up getting VR, and it was such a game changer going from desktop to VR because you have hands now. And then, and I seen later on in years, you'd see full body tracking start to get better and better. And I hadn't really wanted to invest in that because it's, and I still myself don't, because I don't have a need for full body. I mean, half body's just fine, you know. If I was dancing and actually more, you know, physically active, I guess, in the game, then maybe I would invest in full body. But at the time, I was like, I'll just get a headset, something I can play, just to have my hands move. You know, give me more expression, because standing there like a robot, you know, it's just like there's no expression really. You have a lot more expression with your hands than you do just as a robot. So and yeah, so early 2018 kind of got my start in like the Great Pug and the Black Cat and Room of Rain, you know, just kind of messing around with it. And then eventually started hanging out in different groups and connecting with, at the time, we would have people play their music through their speakers, you know, through like their actual in-game speaker, and we would sit around a mirror. Mirror dwelling was the thing, you know, and so we would sit there and just conversate and chat. That's kind of the early ongoing introduction I had into VRChat's communities. So
It's kind of funny
it's
how most of the time and the nostalgia time, you know, I know a lot of people when they are learning more about the DJ community, they're kind of learning about the now. They're learning about what we've got going on now compared to what it was back in the day. There are videos out there that showcase that sort of stuff, but like the struggle being real is not a struggle anymore. I mean, even right now, when you came in here, you're a little bit taller of an avatar, but you learning that you could shrink your avatar at
yeah.
whenever you feel like it is such a miraculous tool. But even just that too is just like you and I both know, because again, I was in 2019. The fact that, you know, every year seems to have brought us something different or going down a different path, and even leading into like the club scene, and maybe I wouldn't even say RP bar scene or RP club scene. You do have a couple of DJs that were performing outside of, you know, through their mouths, comparable to where we are now, this
Yeah.
massive community of DJs and performers and stuff. Talk to us a little bit about your first experiences as you were leading from the meme culture kind of into your first couple of instances of clubs, DJing, even your first performances of DJing.
So early on, I didn't really, probably late 2018 into 2019. I really didn't mess around with like VR. I wasn't as active in VR as I ended up becoming later on, but in just my travels in VR, I would find groups of people doing events, and I ended up at a 4th of July event. I think it was, yeah, it would have probably been 2018, like, yeah, middle of 2018. 4th of July event, and they were having, it was a giant open field, and they had a Ferris wheel and a bunch of other stuff, and there was a DJ playing live on the screen. And at the time, I'd never seen that because, like, as I said before, we were playing our music through our mics. We didn't really have the screens. We had a video player, but we could only play like YouTube videos. So the technology wasn't there yet. Then I go to this event and there's a live DJ on the screen, and I was like, he's live right now? I couldn't believe it. I was like, he's DJing right now. And they were like, go check out his Twitch. So sure enough, checked out his Twitch. DJ Wally, shout out DJ Wally. Never had ever seen anyone do that. But I had just immediately it hooked me. I was like, I want to do this. I don't, because I'd already been in music, you know, all like I've been in music since I was 8 years old. I love music. And so I was like, I could do this. I want to learn how to do this because it gives me, I'd seen the door open where it was like, try it. You know what I mean? Try DJing, give it a shot. You're musical. You know how it, you know, BPMs and timing and all that. It's already second nature to me. Jump into it. So I ended up getting a little like the week after that event, I ended up buying a what was it? An SB3. So it was a little tiny little controller, a little SB3. And I started learning how to mix on it, and it was such a kind of a learning curve, kind of, you know, kind of not, because I had the musical knowledge, but it was just trying to figure out what the controller did and how certain things work and being able to find a good music selection. And it takes years to really master it, but it was that single moment in VR where it was like, I could do this. Why can't I
Did
do
you
this?
have a
Let's try
moment
it.
where, like, as soon as you mixed your first song, you were like, I did it. I'm the DJ now. I'm just as professional as anybody else.
Yeah, I don't know. I really would just in my head hammer home like trying different genres and trying to mix differently and just being able to try different things with the mixer. But I always try to push myself and try to have the cleanest mix, and the transitions was a big thing that I would like mentally focus on. I was like, if this isn't good, if it doesn't line up right, if it doesn't sound right, I'm gonna know. And it bugged me whenever it wasn't, because when I first started, it was all like heavy rhythm. I loved rhythm. I loved dubstep. I was just into the heavy stuff. And trying to transition those type of tracks is challenging, but once I got over that challenge, it's became just smooth, and being able to smoothen things out over the years is very beneficial, and it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of hours of just sitting there and trying to go through the whole mix over and over until you like what you're working with. So
So, what was the type of interaction between you and other dubstep rhythm DJs that you probably stumbled across in the game? Obviously, everybody has their genre and their way of performing, but I felt like if that's something that you're passionate about, you're going to want to either scope out the people that you want to, not really replicate, but like be a part of that tribe or community.
yeah, I would go to, so like the first clubs that I ever really played for was Club Lit. I'm gonna bring some nostalgia back to some people. Club Lit was one of the first clubs I ever DJ'd for. It was a super small venue, which is why I liked it. It was so compact. Everyone was focused on the DJ. They weren't so much focused on like the happenings of the world, and the world wasn't massive. It was all focused on the DJ. So I got a lot of practice in there, and then I ended up DJing for a group called the Party Zone. And again, shout out Ropai. Ropai and I came up in that scene together. He was security, I was DJing. Ended up getting a residential gig there like every week. I was playing every Friday or Saturday, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun because it gave me the practice that I needed to get better as a DJ, but also gave me the knowledge that I would end up taking from VR into the IRL scene and actually ending up playing my own club, like not my own club, my first club. But it was the experience from VRChat that gave me the knowledge and the tools from practicing and being in that environment to then take that into the IRL circuit and have some success in that.
I know we're going to be talking kind of back and forth as far as bridging the gap between hobbyist DJ to professional DJ to even taking your hobby and having the skills in VRChat and trying to make them more professional, resonate into the IRL community and the way that they handle stuff. Because if you've been a part of our community, you would have already known this by now, that a lot of people either A, don't recognize VRChat as being like as not intuitive, but like hands-on, really hands-on. They probably just think it's just a video game, something you can get on the Quest and you just slap it on your face and then, oh my gosh, I'm an anime or something. But there's that's we're so far into this technology that they haven't even caught up. And getting that understanding of bridging that gap between the skills that we have in here and translating them into real life applications to showcase what we do in here and try to get that reality check, being like, oh, we are actually performers in here. We're actually doing stuff. It's not just sitting here, being babies, shaking rattles and stuff like that. So even joining in with a lot of these different instances, this obviously pushed you into a better understanding of what GearFest would have been.
Yeah, we'll get into the history of it if you'd like, or we can, get into that later. But it was literally just kind of the landscape of it was I wanted to create something for not just me, but the communities around me. Because while communities were doing events, in their own kind of little inner circle, it was like, how do we incorporate not just DJs and dancers, but let's incorporate content creators and trying to just have as much collaboration in one event as possible. That was my goal originally, but it was also just just being able to collaborate with all the other clubs and stuff gave me the connections that I needed to do it the next year and the year following. And the first festival I ever DJ'd was the Mend Your Mind. It was festival raising money for I can't think of the charity they did, but Mend Your Mind was the first um, mental health. That's what it was. We did it in December. It was raising money for mental health and mental health awareness, and we raised a good amount of money. And it was kind of the first introduction into festivals that I had done in VR. It was really kind of a great way to connect, and I met so many DJs and communities because of that event that I was like, why can't I do this? Kind of similar to me seeing the DJ in VR. I was like, why can't I do this? I'm capable. I have friends now that I've made connections, I can put together something. Why not? So uh yeah, that's kind of where it stemmed from, was the early ongoings of being able to connect with those communities and doing a festival that I wasn't in charge of, but I was a part of. So
Understanding everybody's passions in VR chat, regardless of either you're a streamer, content creator, influencer, DJ, dancer, it seems that, I mean, everyone has their own kind of pre-planned path of how they want to attack the scene and be able to either showcase a way to do charity, grab some people to come in and do a huge festival. I know, well, this year alone, like not even teasing it, but like this year alone, so far this summer is going to be absolutely packed with festivals and DJs wanting to do more performances and even help big charity causes and stuff like that. I know, oh gosh, I think it's September. I think it's September. That's when most of the charity streamers come out to raise all this money, and all of that is great, grand, and good. And what you do for GearFest and how you want to raise charity money for charities and help with donations and stuff. It's super. It shines such a great positive message into our community because I don't want to say that people aren't as passionate as you are when it comes to that, but I think you're one step ahead of that game to be able to showcase that people can actually do this and we can get together and really make a change on the things that we do. I know we have a couple of questions in chat, and they are pertaining to producing music, which we are going to get to. Obviously, I mean, again,
yeah.
our boy here sitting in behind the chair has been doing literally almost every corner of the musical genre thing. So trying to be able to pull all of this within 2 hours is going to be it's going to be a challenge.
We're
It's not
going to
gonna
have fun.
This
is a fun show. This is a fun show.
There's a lot of, and like, but that's the passionate thing too, is I think a lot of people need to understand that, is I think what you're doing is the most motivation and the most optimistic way of handling the business. And the one thing that I learned in college that, well, there's many things I learned in college, but the couple of things I learned in college is you should never just rely on one thing. You should always have a backup. You should always be able to be multifaceted and all these other things. Let them sit and marinate in the back while you work on your primary thing. And then when the primary thing kind of fails, then you're just like, well, I already have a backup. You could just kind of bring it in. So I feel like that's kind of what you got cooking with the DJing and the groups and the festival, as well as making music, performing, even going down to your podcast stuff, which again we'll get into as well. So obviously we do have a question about sampling. We will get to it in a moment. I want to kind of quickly dive into the idea of DJ Gearbolt, because I think a lot of people, when they see whether you're, I would say, cosplaying your character, you have your hat and you have the gears hanging off of your hat, and obviously the mask and what you have for your face and stuff like that. Is there any back lore to that? Is there a meaning behind that?
So years ago, I had a YouTube channel. Well, it's the same channel, but I've rebranded. It was Gearbolt Gaming was the original. It was a gaming channel. I was trying to do gaming content, and it wasn't working out. While I was getting a little bit of, I would do Counter-Strike videos and try and come up with different content and be funny. I ended up, since I had my VR, I would play games like Echo VR and just do impersonations and try and create as much content on the gaming side of YouTube as possible. I was live streaming. I had my own schedule. I had like Monday through Friday all planned out of every game I was going to play that afternoon. But it started to get like dull. Like content creation for me was just kind of like a job at that point and just grindy, and I didn't like it. It just wasn't what I wanted to. Gaming was not what I wanted to do. So when I made the transition, 2019 was kind of like the whole transfer into DJ Gearbolt, where I knew that I wanted to make music. That was my sole like purpose, was I wanted to make music, but I didn't want to change like the entire brand, if you know what I mean. So I ended up just like, instead of Gearbolt Gaming, DJ Gearbolt, and it, easy transition. So that's kind of where that originated.
Because I was gonna say, like earlier on when you were making music, I don't want to think that Gearbolt was the first intention. Like you picked up you pick up a guitar, you started drumming, and you're just like, Gearbolt the band. Which I know one of the things that is readily available, but you'd have to kind of look deeper into it. That's kind of one of the earlier projects for you. Is I think, what was it, 2019? You created a band and you had an EP or an album, and
Oh yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that before we get into some more DJing stuff. Obviously, music's been a very passionate thing for you ever since a wee lad. But
Yeah.
but kind of talk to us a little bit about that process for those people that are either joining into VRChat as a DJ just solo dolo, comparable to someone that has some musical knowledge in the background.
So, as you said, I've loved music since I was like 8. Like, well, just young. I've been in a musical family. My grandmother played piano, and just I was always surrounded by music. Took piano lessons as a kid. So technically, the correct term is I am a classically trained musician. So I've been trained on paper and piano, and that's how I was, raised, was just around music. And my mother insisted that I actually had some musical, classes, and stayed in music, but it sticked. I love like just music. I was raised on country, like classic oldies country, because my grandparents would take me to like old time country events and stuff. So I was always around music. And then in my later years, probably 14 years old, I would be in the garage messing around with it was a double-sided tape recorder. We're gonna get into this. We had 2 cassette tapes. It would record on this side, or you would have something on this side, and you could record whatever you had on this tape to the other tape. And so I started in the garage messing around with cassette tapes, blank cassette tapes. What I would do was start with a drum beat on this side, record the drum beat over to this side, and then I would record vocals on this and record the vocals back over the drum beat. Then it was just a rinse and repeat process of that till I had a whole song. And that's kind of the origins of like music creating. And while this probably would have been in 2012, 2013, technology was good. I just didn't have access to, a studio. I was just messing around in the garage. So I took, years of just kind of learning how to mess around with different instruments. And then I was probably 10 years old. We were on a camping trip. And, my mom was trying to get me into violin and other things. And this song came on the radio. And it just, something about it, dude. Just the intro and the just classic rock sound. AC/DC's Back in Black came on the radio, and it just, something clicked. I was like, I know what I want to do. I want to play guitar. I don't care I don't know what the sound is. I was just so caught off by it, and it just grabbed a hold of me, and it wouldn't let go. So
Did your mom think of it like demon music? Did she kind of play that card?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is music from the devil.
Funny enough, so my mother, very religious. I love her to death, but very, very religious. So, um, she hated it. She hated, like, I would be blasting in my room, just classic rock and metal. Because once that door was opened, it was game on. I was listening to Megadeth, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Led Zeppelin. Just everything was opened, and it just grabbed a hold of me, like I said, and I ended up getting my mom had a guitar actually that she had gotten years ago. So I ended up playing her guitar to kind of get a good foothold of the instrument. And then throughout middle school was when I actually started my first band, was middle school, like 8th grade. And then into freshman year of high school, I met my drummer, and we started putting pieces of a band together. And it was really cool to kind of get another perspective as far as musically from another person, but we had so many connections, like on a musical scale, that it just worked. We had so much fun creating music, and I don't even know. I definitely got a CD of our first album somewhere in storage, but we recorded on this tiny little laptop in the high school this little album we put together, and it was terribly produced. It was sounded awful, but it was our first attempt at music. So I had a blast with that. So that's kind of my introduction as far as the recording side of things, and starting to make my own music was high school, and being a bandy and loving anything to do with music. So all through high school I was in band and orchestra, choir, and everything musically that I could be. I wanted that in my repertoire. Was I loved music, so it was going to be my main focus during high school was pretty much music. So post high school, I moved to the city, and from the country to the city, completely different change. There's just, it's loud. The city's just loud. There's so much going on, and it's just a mess. And so while working construction up there, I started producing my first EP, which was Thoughts in Mind. Well, yeah. So uh, going back when I was living in a single studio apartment, I actually started recording hip hop. So hip hop, the first like 3 albums I ever did was rap and hip hop, because I love Dre, I love Eminem, and hip hop was like the first time I started using FL Studio and starting to produce my own stuff was hip hop. But it was terrible. It was awful. It was just not good. So ended up in 2019 starting to work on electronic music, EDM, and starting to mix actual electronic music, different from anything I'd ever done before, because before I had done hip hop and rap and stuff. So starting to work with another genre was not terribly hard, but it was also like a learning curve, because I had gone from this straight 80 BPM, 4 beats a minute, it just this different type of music to electronic music, which was so vast because there's so many different genres. And uh what do you pick? What do you like? What do you want to make? So I actually first released my first album was Sounds of Magic. So that's the first album I ever released, was Sounds of Magic. It was technically a folk rock album. It was, kind of had some synth and mixed in my vocals, and just different. It was just different. I wanted to experiment and kind of trying to find my own sound and incorporate my guitar and just experiment. I think a majority of like artists that get started experiment. It's kind of what you have to do to find your sound or your voice, if you will. And so then after that, I released the EP, which was Thoughts in Mind. And that album, that album was so crazy because it was a meme album. It was kind of like everything on my mind at the time, from Joe Rogan to Courage the Cowardly Dog to Scooby Doo and Black Ops, Call of Duty Black Ops. There's so many different references in that album, but yeah, it just started kind of there and growing and working to create my own little sound. From then on, so right now I have 4 singles and 4 albums out, all available on my YouTube channel. But it's been through years. A lot of the projects, like I was saying, was the hip hop stuff you can find on my SoundCloud, but it's it's so old, it's terrible. But it gave me the experience and the knowledge that I needed to actually continue and produce into the future.
All of this is super interesting over the fact that, again, like, you started at such a young age, and what you've had exposed to you, or at your exposure, you used to kind of gain traction and get an idea of how your sound was going to be created overall. And one of the major pushing points, I think, when it comes to a lot of the DJs in here, is that they have a likeness in a specific genre, or they're looking for a specific tribe to be a part of, a group.
Lost audio with you there, Rob. I don't know if it's on my end or.
Let's take a look. This is a live show, so I would say almost anything is possible.
We got you back.
All right.
Got you back.
Cool. I was gonna say it's showing a lot of bars here, but per usual, if at any time we have to contact, talk to each other in here, then we totally can. But what you're actually doing in here is super, super important and super interesting, over the fact that, again, you have a lot of people that are DJing in here that when they first come in, They just what they have an idea already have an idea of how their sound's going to be portrayed. And I know a lot in the business we've been kind of going back and forth between, do you do producer first then become a DJ, or DJ first then become a producer? Both avenues are correct. It's just how you handle the second project compared to the first project, and where you're going to have that balance in. And again, finding your sound, coming in here, even just beginning the DJ in virtual reality, you have to kind of not really start all over again because you have knowledge, but starting all over again to understanding, more people to kind of join your cause in a sense of where you want to go with your musical journeys and stuff like that. Hell, even you have actual musicians in here that perform piano, guitar, and all that sort of stuff, and that's starting to grow a lot with their passions too. But just the fact that you were introduced to all of these different stylings and how it resonates, and you're kind of painting your journey and your picture of how you want your music to be created. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and read this quote from your Spotify page that I saw, which again, I think a lot of people, they know you on YouTube, they know you on Twitch, they know that you DJ, you know this thing, but Spotify, man, you got to go there and check it out. It says you have a couple tracks on there with a very unique bio, generating a unique house and techno urban style, using synths and electric guitar to create a distinctive sonic experience by infusing psychedelic and hypnotic trance elements.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to break that down for us a little bit.
So my manager he's the one that came up with that. And we kind of went over it together to try and, as best we could, put me in frame, put me in picture. What is DJ Gearbolt? What's he do? What's his sound? How do you kind of put that in words? And so he and I sat down, and he had already kind of had a little draft written up. So we went over it, and I kind of adjusted things here and there. But yeah, essentially, I'm a DJ, but I'm also a producer who makes his own music, and I try to incorporate my electric guitar and other elements of actual instruments. I would try and incorporate all of that into my music. So, majority of my music, whether it's my actual vocals or a drone flute that I have, or a flute, just little steel flutes and just different. I would try to incorporate live instrumentation in my music as much as possible. In every project that I did, not every single project, but majority of the projects I've done, I always try and incorporate live instrumentation. I mentioned my grandmother being a big part of my life musically. I actually included her accordion in the Sounds of Magic. So her accordion is in a couple of the tracks in that album. So I always try and incorporate like actual instrumentation, as well as like introducing like the synth and the different sounds of electronic music, as well as that kind of just blend makes it's fun. It's kind of a 50-50 where yes, you've got the electronic sound, but you've also got the live instrumentation to go with it. So it's a good mix of different stuff.
Kind of a cheeky question, because I used to make I made at least 2 albums of just like comedy music back in college. Do you ever listen to your own stuff? Do you sing to your own stuff from time to time?
All the time.
Like just put on your tracks and just sing in the shower?
Yeah. No, I did it today. So I have a collab coming out. I don't have a timeline, but when producing it, I do the test, because there's several different tests I go through, and it's kind of funny because I'm not the only one that does it. I do a phone speaker test, headphones, like proper headphones, and then I'll do it in the car and make sure it's good audio for all 3 of those. It's kind of the catalyst that we test on, or I do at least, and I and many others try to make sure the audio is as good as it can be for all those different types of speakers and sounds. So yeah, I listen to my own music all the time, and sometimes I'll go back and listen to like Sounds of Magic and try and what was I doing here, and what could I have improved, or thoughts in mind. I'll look at that album and hey, what this is all rhythm, but how could I have improved the production of it, and I'll listen to that and kind of listen to my own personal journey of not only just the production of it, but the lyrical writing of it, because I love writing full-blown stories of songs and trying to incorporate a good moral lesson behind some of the songs. So Sounds of Magic has a lot of that, where it's like a good moral lesson behind the track.
So we have a question here in chat that I was kind of waiting for us to get to this moment in time, because normally when we start the stream and we ask if anyone has questions, it just always seems like, let's go, I gotta get this question out there and open it. But it's super important to get your questions in early as well. And this one kind of pertains, I feel like the person who asked this question kind of has a generalization of the answer for it, but I'd like to try to open it up to discussion, because there is a discussion behind it. I know previously, again, coming from Miami Music Week, a really big conference down in Miami for DJs and the industry, they even brought up AI technology and how they were trying to identify it, how to deal with it, and how to handle it, especially because producers are now using it even more nowadays to make more either edits or remixes or what have you. It's just an added tool, and that's kind of what they're kind of showcasing it. But the question here is can you explain sampling? And the immediate follow-up to that is, are you allowed to sell music if you ended up sampling something from another source?
That's a complicated question. Yes and no. So there are kind of I don't know. So if I'm using a sample, I usually buy the full sample pack. Not only just buy it, but I get the licensing for it. So everything in that sample pack is mine to produce and mess with. And then out of that sample pack, I can go into FL Studio and make it my own. While it is like at a base level, just kind of a sample, then you take it and adjust it and create it to bend it enough so it's not like a straight copy and paste. You don't want to plagiarize somebody else's creation. You want to create your own creation using somebody else's base platform, just kind of the blueprint. You know what I mean? You take their blueprint and you remold it, reshape it in your own sound and form. So majority of what I do with the sampling, if I get a sample pack, I will actually just use like a lot of the drums, a lot of the drum loops. Drum loops are pretty much the majority of what I'll pull out of a sample pack is a drum loop. From there, it's it's just kind of crafting and making my own from that point. So I don't see anything wrong with it as far as pulling samples and using them. But where it's really challenging is, like, say you pull a sample from a really famous movie or something, and you try and incorporate that into your music. A perfect example of this, I did a song about Dexter's Laboratory, and it was on The Destination. Okay, the album The Destination, my album. In that I had a ton of Dexter Laboratory quotes from the show and stuff. So once I tried to actually upload that, the publisher gave me a warning saying, hey, there's copyrighted content in here. Well, you can't use this. So majority of the time, if you're trying to use certain samples and they're not up to par or okay, they will get blocked. You can't publish the track without it being corrected. So it's a very challenging kind of thing to navigate, but it's doable. So I ended up just cutting out certain things and making sure there wasn't as much as much content. So you're not straight up, like I said, copying and pasting the whole of the episode of Dexter's Laboratory. You're only taking out little pieces and vocal lines here and there. So it's not straight copy and paste. You're just bending it a little bit. That way that's my best explanation of how to get around certain things. But it's challenging because you can't, like I said, certain things you won't be able to upload because of copyright. So it's a very challenging thing to do in production.
I think I'll double up with you on that too, especially because there are a lot of people either in VRChat or in the scene. They're looking to produce right away, and they're looking to either get the networking or the money or the notoriety or the fact that, well, if Post Malone can post something on SoundCloud and get famous right away, why can't I? And while that's a great mentality and motivation tool to get you to move, the real reality of it is you got to get good first. And the thing about getting good is you could still take a sample from something, or you could take a beat from something, make your own thing with it, call it practice, but still use it as a tool of showcasing the skills that you have to be able to make something like that. You may not get money from it right away, but I think a lot of people are missing that key step. Honestly too, I was talking to another DJ too, who was asking me how I was able to DJ so often, and I told him that I practice, and he really, that person could not believe me the fact that they're like, do you really practice? Do you really have to? And I'm like, you kind of do. Like, if you're going to
Yeah.
get good, you got to do it. Same
Yep.
thing goes with production. Like, you
Yep.
can't wake up thinking that you're you're heaven sent and be able to, like,
Yeah.
hit a home run as soon as you wake up. Hell, we all need coffee to get to that part. But being able to practice with those assets, it might not be the number one tool to get you out there and whatever, but it definitely helps the cause of you trying to learn how to create a song or create a thing.
100%. And there are a lot of different blueprints from other creators and how-tos on YouTube of how to do this or how to create that sound. I definitely recommend, like, if you're trying to get into a genre, you're trying to produce something that you're unfamiliar with, check out a tutorial on YouTube of how to create a song like Skrillex, because there are a lot of people that want to know how to do that. So do the research, learn, practice, just like you were saying. Practice. I have my CDJs out. They're over there. They're literally over there. I practice today. I have events upcoming. So staying active on your content or whatever your performance is, you have to stay active. If you're serious about production and DJing or anything in music, and you want it as not just a hobby, if you're serious about it, you want it to be something you get paid for eventually. Make it a job. Make it a job. Make sure that you're spending, at least a couple hours, whether it's practicing on the decks or producing. Make sure you take the time, and it doesn't have to be, do it at your own pace, but make sure you're at least staying active with it. 100%.
I'll also say too that if you actively write the copyright owner and request for that copyright that you can do it, and they reject you with a rejection letter, I would frame it, because at least, like,
Yep.
you got something from them, as opposed to them just being like, well, we didn't receive anything, or the fact that, again, like, the thing about Dexter's Lab is it's owned by Viacom, so
Yeah.
just the fact that you get anything from Viacom, whether it's an email or a written note, I would
Yeah.
frame that. I'd circle it in red, put it in a
Right.
frame, put it up, and be like, Viacom knows who I am now. So I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit as far as, like, again, either DJing first to become a producer later, or producer first then becoming a DJ. What are your thoughts on some of the community members in here that either come in first as producers that want to be a DJ, comparable to DJs that want to actively produce? Have you seen kind of a widespread range of that?
100%. I have a friend who's currently he was a DJ first outside of VRChat, and that was his main kind of thing. He just DJ'd. He didn't really, produce anything. He was just playing the music. And there's a lot of that, and there's nothing wrong with it. So he called me one day and was like, "Hey, I want to learn how to use the DAW, the FL Studio, or Ableton, or whatever he was using. I want to learn how to do it. Could you give me some tips?" And I was like, "Yeah, here's this and this." And he's like, "Well, how do I even get started in the production side of things? I've only DJ'd." So it's like, it's a whole nother learning curve. Going from producing music to DJing is one thing, because it's another learning curve. It's a little different playing your own music than other people's music, but in the production side of things, I think it's a little easier to learn how to DJ and then produce your own music later, because I think DJing is like the sole focus of it. You got to learn how to work the tool first. You got to learn how to play the instrument first before you can start creating your own songs. So I personally start there, and then, but from years of doing this, I was producing before I started DJing, and it was easier for me because I'd already had the previous knowledge of the ins and outs of buttons and controls, and all of that made sense to me because I'd had years of experience beforehand. So the learning curve's a little different for everybody. I think like my buddy just starting trying to produce his own music, he was actually scared to release a track. He's like, I don't know if it's perfect, I don't know if it's ready. And I was like, just release it. And that's my advice to anybody. Just release it. If you're nervous about it, good. That's a good thing. You're worried about the product, and at the end of the day, you're trying to be your own original self. Just release it. If it's not great, you will get feedback. You will find out very quickly. If
Yeah.
good, people will let you know. And take it for granted. Don't take it for granted, because people will tell you whether it's good or bad. Some people are haters. Some people are haters. Some people will just hate your music. No matter what you make, somebody's gonna hate it. So understand that, and then move forward and take the learning experience that you've learned from creating music in past and the way it sounds, and take those lessons that you've learned from doing that and move forward and improve and slowly improve. You don't have to be 100% all in on the music right now. It's every day. I'm taking time out of my day to just focus on that all day. You want to gradually ease yourself into it. Don't push yourself too hard, because if you do, you will burn out. Burnout is a thing, 100%.
That's one of those hidden topics that we choose not to talk too much about here in VRChat because that does happen a lot, especially within our community. We're live with VRCDJ Live, and we're here with DJ Gearbolt of GearFest. We're going to be talking a little bit about GearFest in a moment, but obviously, as we are kind of making that transition in the show where we're kind of understanding the role of a producer, the role of a DJ, the role of a club owner, basically the entire package right now. Talk to us a little bit about the things that you've seen since the boom of 2022 is kind of what we've been calling it on the show, where we've just been having an aggressive amount of DJs in the scene, not only wanting to start it as a hobby, but have started to take interest in the things that we do here.
Yeah, it's a completely different landscape from 2018. I'll tell you that right now. It is. Because you and I, about the same time period of VR, back then we didn't have, I mean, dance teams weren't really a thing at that point in time. They weren't really, I mean, we had dancers, but full body wasn't as prominent as it is today. Like full body, there's people all over VRChat that have full body now, and it's so dancing has become quite the not it's a subcategory of VR itself, and so it's grown tremendously. There are tons of people that so the boom of 2022, like you were saying, I think after COVID, post COVID, people even during COVID, people were just stuck inside with nothing to do, so they ended up getting a Quest headset, and then they find VRChat, and then they find communities, and it all just kind of leads into a similar situation that I was in, where it was like, I want to do that. Why can't I DJ? I see a DJ live at an event and it just clicked. I was like, I want to do that. So 100%, the growth is just massive as far as the community goes. But I think there's a lot of DJs that are eager to immediately jump on a festival and immediately get their name recognized and try and, oh, I'm the best. Not so much. Here's I hate saying this word, clout. It's such a stupid word, dude. Just do it because you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Don't try and, I'm doing it for the ladies. That's so stupid. Do it because you enjoy it. It's while there are a lot of DJs and a lot of new DJs, even you could go and find new clubs. You can find a new club almost every week. If you really wanted to in this game, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of clubs active all the time in this game. And so that opens the door for opportunity for DJs to get a good foothold and get a good start in whatever genre or subcategory they want. The doors are open. So don't be afraid to start. If you're afraid that, oh, there's too many DJs starting, just start, pick it up. If you want to dance and you're like, oh, there's so many dancers in VR, there's really not. The player base is not as big as some people think. And try it. You'll never know. You'll never know if you like it unless you try it. So that's my advice, is give it a shot. Go for it.
I know it's kind of a tricky landscape to start to maneuver, especially in the past 3 years. We'll give say 3 years, give or take. I mean, we did have a lot of DJs start coming in around 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic and stuff like that. But even comparable to, like you were saying, you got people that come in here and they want to test the waters. An was it SMB3 or the SB3? Fantastic console to start off of if you're gonna have the FLX2 or the 4, the 6, the Groove 6 or something like that. Especially with the latest technologies. I actually wrote that down. We might talk a little bit about it because it tends to be a hot topic right now, being what software, what hardware, do you go for the really expensive stuff comparable to what would be too cheap to be cheap, I guess. Right. But again, with the landscape of how we're kind of putting this all together and getting an understanding of how the DJs are either starting as hobbyists, but then they are feeding into, oh my gosh, I've got a crowd. Oh my gosh, I've got fans. Oh my gosh, I'm playing stuff like Skrillex. Oh my god. So all of that it's not really just a clout thing, but it's just a matter of getting a taste of the limelight, getting a taste of what it is like to be performing. And again, another magical word that we were talking about earlier, burnout. The fact that sometimes people just don't realize that exists too. Funny enough, somebody interviewed Diplo the other day, asking him, it's funny that we never see you drinking while you're performing. And he goes, how can I? One night I'm performing here, I get on a plane right after that, go to another place, DJ in the morning, and then I'm DJing at night, and then I'm DJing somewhere else, and then the third day I'm out there DJing. I can't
Yep.
I can't drink alcohol that entire time. I'd be dead by now.
Yep.
But also that too is that as you may have learned with your musical journeys of understanding what works, what doesn't work, failure is the best teacher. You know, failure,
100%.
regardless if you're constantly failing or not, you will learn from what you fail to be better later on when you're perfecting your craft.
100%. And it's funny you mentioned like Diplo and not drinking, and I've been clean since April 17th, 2023. I got clean of everything. I don't touch anything because I had my fun. I did. I had a lot of fun, and then it caught up with me, and it will catch up with everybody eventually if you let it. Now they always say be responsible, and that is true. But if you're it catches up with you. It will catch up with you eventually. So I avoid it completely because it's just not worth it. And I don't have the time. That's the other thing. I don't have the time.
It's expensive
I am
too.
busy. It's expensive. Yeah. You can't afford to pick up an 8 ball of Coke every weekend and try and DJ in VRChat. Well, I'd say you can't. You can do that. If you really want to, you can. But here's the thing. It's going to catch up with you. Eventually it will. And you're going to get to a point where you're struggling, whether it's physically or mentally. You will struggle, which is why I got clear of all of it. And I suggest it to everybody. There's a heavy stigma of alcoholism in this game. And I know you've talked about it on previous episodes where there is so much prevalence and so much focus on the drinking side of this game, right? And that is not so much a stigma because it's not as well known as other things, other stigmas about this game, but it is such a subculture in this game, especially in the club scene, where it's like, oh, we're coming into this club to get hammered and just enjoy the night. While there's nothing wrong with that, it will catch up with you eventually. And a lot of clubs that I've seen come and go have tried to just continuously keep that train moving of we're going to get drunk every Friday. Every single Friday we've got this event. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday we're going to try and do this and hang out in the Discord, and it's just a lot. And then the clubs end up burning out because people get tired of the same repetitive thing. So, that's kind of my advice to people is just be responsible. You do you, but be responsible and don't let it become your life.
I think it's partially kind of the reasoning too, is just that you do have some people that do go to college, get the whole college experience, but at the same time, you do have some people that don't go to college. And while they still want that college experience, being either by yourself or a handful of friends, it's a whole different way of, you're young, try when you're young. I guess that's the human nature of a lot of these things. But what I what I would recommend for those people that are proactively drinking in here, go to a Miami club, go to a Las Vegas club. How do you feel about spending $30 for one drink?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that. I don't want to do it. I mean, it's a good drink, but at the same time, you can't keep dishing out $30 for a drink. Like that's not a thing. So in here, obviously, but being in here, obviously, you have the social aspect of it, and again, make sure you're responsible with it. But as you're younger, you will learn that the IRL scene is a little bit different comparable to the average thing. Kind of getting back on track with GearFest here, and I know we're going to talk a lot about that, especially because you just had one about a couple months ago. That was really, really rager. Yeah. There's so much going on in that. Comparable to all the DJs that have been in the scene and the DJs that do approach you, or maybe you look out for specific DJs, what's the turnaround for them asking you to see if they want to perform GearFest, or do you kind of eyeball to see who you like to either be on the listing, or maybe someone recommends a DJ to you?
Yeah, so there was this last year, biggest year we've ever had. It's crazy. All these I invite. It's kind of grown. We've done it. This year would have been our third year, so it's grown really well. we've had a lot of different communities involved, and out of those communities are some fantastic DJs. They are amazing. There's so many good creators, and it's so hard to pick a lineup for something like this. But I was able to do it. I myself pick the lineup every single year, and the way I make it work is there's a channel in our Discord where you can submit all of your DJ info. And I this last year went through every single submission we had. I went through any live performances they had, any music they'd produced. I listened to every single thing they had. And out of that, I selected the DJs that I would have liked to perform on the lineup, and messaged them personally saying, "Hey, I would like you, if you're interested and you want to be part, here's a slot. What do you want?" And so, yeah, I selected the lineup personally. I like doing that because it gives me a good idea of kind of the layout of the whole festival. Is here's our drum and bass night, and not so much specific to genre, but the way I just lay it out is the way I've liked the DJs to line up, and some nights it's all over the place, but there's no specific genre. I'm just like, play whatever you want. This is the main reason I loved having as many DJs as we did. We did 4 nights this last GearFest. 4 nights. It was massive. The reason I loved that is because it gave the opportunity, kind of like I had years ago when I did Mend Your Mind, was I was able to collaborate with other DJs, other dancers, other communities, and just being able to have those connections, that helps so many DJs. And that was one big pieces of feedback I got was I met so many cool people, and because of this event, I was able to get into this event and be able to get into this club, and that was awesome. And that having that as not so much a goal, but as a little bonus to the whole festival was so cool. Such a cool thing to see in the aftermath of it.
When it comes to like putting together a lineup, is it complicated? I know you said that there is all sorts of different genres and people can play how they choose to, but formulaic, I feel like that you would be receiving some sort of feedback when it came to, oh, I want this particular genre, or I heard too much of this, or maybe we can get more of this, or what kind of feedback when it comes to the lineup, putting together the lineup? What did it have? Was it sprinkled evenly? I guess that's kind of the question.
Yeah, it's I mean, the popular thing this last year was drum and bass. Drum and bass was like the heavy hitter of the scene was drum and bass. And I love drum and bass, but I'm a house head. I love house. So we had a good mix of all kinds of electronic stuff. We like shout out to Tatsu. You had Tatsu on. Tatsu played, and it was just so much fun because it was like the weeb side of things. You had the meme side of things, and just it was a good mix. I like a good mix of different genres and styles, and being able to have a whole range of stuff is really cool. You kind of have, like I said, I went through each DJ and listened to their stuff, and that's a good indicator of what they're going to play, but it's also I leave it open to them. I'm not giving them a specific like, "Hey, you play drum and bass because that's what's on your Discord," or I left it open to them because I think being able to have a live show and produce your own art piece for the whole festival for everyone to hear is very important. I think being as creative as possible as a DJ is very important. So giving the avenue to the DJs to do that, I left it up to them to play whatever they want. Was a big part of the lineup. And I think having just the kind of general idea of what they play and then just kind of laying it out that way. But also I gave most of the DJs, I would give them the timesheets and be like, here's the slots that are open. Pick what works best for you. And I'll try, and with that comes a lot of like, oh, here's a drum and bass DJ playing next to a house DJ, next to a rhythm DJ, So there was a lot of that as well, but it works out because the DJs communicate. And this is one thing, if you are a DJ and you're watching this and you end up getting on a lineup, a piece of advice, double check with the person before you, figure out what their last song is, kind of get an idea of what BPM, what tempo, and all the stuff. Figure all that out, and then talk to the DJ after you, and kind of the same rule. Just what are they going to play? What are they going to open with? Get a good idea of the person before you and after you, so that you're more prepared for the overall experience, and trying to make it as smooth as possible for the whole event. And it's not a requirement; it's just a suggestion, but it definitely helps the overall flow of the show.
I will say too that just about a week ago, and again when I was in Miami Music Week, I got to go to a couple of events. That one thing that really surprised me, but it worked so seamlessly, was the transition between DJ to DJ to DJ. They were operating off the same CDJs, so it was just so easy to plug
Yeah.
in and then move on to the next thing. But like the only takeaway that I got from it was the fact that they didn't have a microphone, so they couldn't like hype up the crowd. They couldn't say who they were. You should have already known who they are with the lineup,
Yeah.
I guess. But at the
Right.
same time, too, like they operated off of each other, and you would have never known that there was a transition unless you were staring directly at them, really, and to see how they were swapping in place. I could see that happening in the near future, where people should be taking your advice on this and go, it's not even a matter of you performing a whole different genre. It's a matter of you taking the previous genre and sweeping it into what you're going to play. That's what's
Yes.
going to make the whole experience tie together, as opposed to going from like 179 BPM all the way down to like 110. And you're just like, what just happened to my heart?
Yep.
But at the same time too, I mean, if that worked out, obviously you guys have been kicking a lot of butt for GearFest this past year anyway. So obviously you're doing something correctly. Speaking of which, I got another question in the chat concerning world stuff, either world building or being able to DJ with a whole bunch of lighting and just environmental stuff. I know with GearFest this past year, you had a lot of cogs, a lot of steampunk looking stuff, kind of moving in time and things, arms and stuff. But that's all part of the theme. And the question is, is there a real difference between DJing with an environment and lighting comparable to maybe even not even having that?
So here's the thing: is the world totally optional? I could have done GearFest in a black cat, or somewhere where there's a video player. I could have done GearFest there, and it probably would have been fine. But I wanted its own. I wanted its own theme. I wanted to make it an event that everyone could just immediately. We had a set world and everything was laid out that way. Where, like I was saying, you could do it in a like just whatever world you wanted. But I wanted a custom world to fit the theme of the festival, and having that customization gives you a lot more options for creativity and opens up doors of so much more customization, and so Virtual Lily, shout out Virtual Lily, she's the one that helped build the world. Virtual Lily, Aztec Angelo, and Vesturo were the development leads, and they helped. We months in planning and preparation in building the world and kind of coming up with an idea. And Gearbolt, I love steampunk, so we kind of wanted to theme the map after a steampunk theme, so that's what we went with. And different iterations of the map would come along and we'd change things here and there, but it's just months of preparation and planning that went into it. Ministry promotions, you already had them on. I can't shout them out enough from the rooftops. I'd shout them out. Without ministry promotions, without Scoot, GearFest would not have happened. It would not have happened without the organization and just breaking everything down into structure. Scoot did a fantastic job of laying everything out and making sure everybody was communicating at the right time, and just everything. Communication was so important for something like this. If anyone out there is watching this and you want to, do your own charity festival, communicate, man. You have to stay because you could start your own Discord and start this event, but if you're not in constant, whether it's monthly or weekly talks or whatever you decide, communication's so key for making something like this happen. And if it wasn't for, like I said, ministry promotions making all the connections and things, they hooked us up with Virtual Lily and Aztec and they connected all of that, but it was the communication, the active communication, that made it all work. So it's a big part of the production value and production in general.
I think it's kind of unique too, especially this year. We've been seeing a lot of different groups, promotional groups, not only doing a lot of outreach for, future festivals or future, festivals, events. And it's so neat because we haven't had that in a very, very long time. And to be fair, I don't think it has been a long time. I think this is kind of just a brand new concept where we all just want to continue to promote each other and give each other the light of day and make sure that the internet knows what we've got going on. Again, not going back to the fact that right now currently YouTube videos are just hot gas. It's just hot flatulence that's kind of rising to the top, comparable to all the good stuff that's sinking to the bottom. But we are all collectively doing that. Ministry does a fantastic job doing that. I know Project Community helps out a lot, especially with the VCAT side, their own projects, as well as I know we talked with Mr. Creepypasta a couple of months ago about HorrorCon VR. I think that's celebrating their 4th year. So just the fact that everybody is on board and they're willing to put up the efforts and time and energies. We're all doing it as a passion project. Even my team love to kind of come in here and do a really great job with our shows, and just being able to show all that passion it's so rewarding at the end of the day. And kind of going a little bit back with building of the venue and understanding the vibe that DJs have to go through to perform in. A little peek behind the scenes. Do you offer the world up to the DJs to kind of come in to experience the vibe of the venue first, to kind of gauge what kind of set list that they want to come up with?
A little bit. So the week of the festival, we were running tests. We have to run a stress test and test the world out and make sure everything's working. This year was a little different than last year because it grows every year. It seems to get bigger. So year one, 1 times. Year two, 2 times. Year three times. It just gets bigger every year. This year we introduced shader motion and these virtual puppets, essentially, that were cloned from every single instance across the board. All the dancers were cloned essentially through each of the instances. It's the first time we've ever done something like that. I've never seen it. Really, really. And being able to implement that into this year was such a cool piece of technology, something I'd never seen before. But having the team to do that was so cool. Just having everybody work together towards a common goal. And like you said, it's all donated time. Everything we did, from the production to the DJs playing their show, was all donated time. This was all for, whether they donated to charity didn't matter. It was the time invested into the whole event that was really kind of the main focus. And we had the we had the charity, which did insanely well. I mean, 5,000. We raised just over $5,000 for the American Red Cross, and it was such a crazy night. The night we hit that, I was just blown away that a bunch of creators in VRChat. Let me say this again. This is crazy. A bunch of creators in VRChat came together for a festival and raised money to help the world heal, because we picked the American Red Cross for GearFest about the time that the hurricanes hit, the Carolinas and the coast down there. I actually had family in Florida that was affected, and so we wanted, that was our original goal, was to raise money for that. And then the wildfires happened in California, and the American Red Cross, being a part of helping that, it just all kind of came together it worked out. It worked out. Not for, we weren't like, oh, we're going to pick the American Red Cross because of these wildfires. That was something that had happened post, picking them as our charity. So a little history about the charity side of this. On year 1, we picked Fight for the Forgotten, which was a charity put together by former UFC fighter Justin Wren. So Fight for the Forgotten helped raise money for the Pygmies and the African people, New Guinea, and it raised money to help build infrastructure, build wells, and give them a better life. So that's what we did for the first 2 years, was we raised money for Fight for the Forgotten. And it was great. It was great. It was a good kind of introduction into the charity side of things, implementing that into a festival, and then kind of having the whole thing to come together. It is so crazy to me how many people don't know that VRChat exists. It's, so I get a call. So we did year 1, and I get a call from the CEO of Fight for the Forgotten. He's like, "So what can you tell me about this GearFest thing?" So I started to explain to him, yeah, it's a virtual festival. We held it these 3 days, and we raised this amount of money. He's like, oh, hold on, virtual. What does this mean? What does this mean? Virtual. And I was like, yeah, we have virtual headsets. You know what those? He's like, yeah, yeah. I was like, and in the virtual world, we held a festival. He was like, this is crazy. This technology is wizardry. You know, it was funny. But the people outside. It also gives the goal is to like introduce more people to the virtual scene, and shows just like this are a perfect example of how to do that, give people an idea of the possibilities that VR has. So, and that's a really cool thing with GearFest was it opened that door to people that had never really even known about VRChat, or VR in general. They had no idea it was a possibility. So maybe someday down the road they end up creating their own festival for their, whatever they desire. But
I mean, all of this is it's very interesting, and that's the thing that keeps us motivated in here is just the fact that we not only know about the things that we have access to, but there are even more implications outside of that. Hell, I did a performance last year, and there was another DJ who had his visuals were like some anime stuff. There was a Pikachu, there was some like Sailor Moon and stuff like that. And I kid you not, there was like a transparent video of an MMD character, some sort of like pixelated VRChat avatar. Boobies going up and down, but it was wireframed RGB. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, that's super smart because we're in here. We have the technology to record. We have the technology to have a green screen or a camera or something. Why are we doing this? Why aren't we coming in here to record something that we could do visually somewhere else or be able to showcase what we do in here? And one of the funnier topics that we are constantly trying to figure out on this program is just that, is bridging the gap between IRL stuff and virtual. And funny enough, again, last week I talked to a guy who's had well over 40 years experience in the record industry. And his number one quip was, oh, I hate technology. And I'm like, then how are you still in this industry? How are you still doing stuff with EDM artists and record labels and not caring about social media? What's wrong with you? Like, respect your elders. Yeah, respect your elders, but like, oh my gosh.
Social media is terrible. Okay. Here's the thing. I have all my social media on one phone, and then I have my main phone that people call and text me on. I hate notifications constantly going off in my pocket. It's here's the thing. All artists, whether you're producing something like this or you're producing actual physical painted art pieces, you have to have, in order to not 100%, but really now, if you're a musician or an artist or whatever you're trying to do, you have to have social media. You have to have a platform to be able to, publicize whatever you're creating. And the problem is it's just all kind of garbage. I don't like TikTok. I don't like Instagram or Twitter or all of that. It's just, it becomes a job once you're already producing. You're already spending hours and doing music and DJing and doing all of that, maybe even playing live shows and recording it and stuff. Then you have to take all of that and implement it into a smaller format, and Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. You have to have all that content as well and pump all of that out. It gets very tiring, but it's almost a requirement now. If you're going to make it, you have to do social media. And it's some days it's just rough. Some days
would you
it's
hate
tough.
me if I told you that there is an actual career in radio that you can just do social media?
I mean, it doesn't surprise me, and it's an opportunity. Because here's the thing: eventually, I'm gonna get my own social media manager. I want one someday. I'm gonna get one. The reason I want one is so I don't have to worry about that. It's right now. It's part of the job, part of the career, part of the journey is doing the social media. Eventually, I don't want to because I want to focus on other things. It takes a lot of time to sit down and edit hours of it up into little short episodes or clips for YouTube. And while that's very beneficial and important for creativity and growth, it's so much work. It is so much work. It's but again, it's part of the thing, part of the deal. It comes with the 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 grounds of working on all that other stuff. It comes with that.
I also see it as a benefit too, is that if you can't handle all of the social media, how do you think you're going to handle the press? How do you think you're going to handle your self promotion and branding and talking to other people and networking? Because you still have to. Like that is part
Yep.
of the entertainment job, is you got to be entertaining. And if you can't be entertaining all the time, I don't know, like there's other jobs out there for you. Kind of getting back a little bit about GearFest and how it started and began. I know you had a very whimsical story about how GearFest even started, and I want to lead into this to those people that are genuinely interested in not only just performing for a festival, but maybe there's some people out there that are interested in how you were able to develop GearFest as if they were going to start their own festivals.
100%. So, okay, years ago, this would have been 2022. Was the first time we'd ever done it. And I was still in contact with the Party Zone. I had mentioned them before. They had a world. It was a pretty big, like it was designed for a festival, kind of like Electric Forest or something. It was built into a forest. So had a giant clearing and a giant figure of the ropai. They had a giant gold ropai on each side of the stage, and it was fun. Yeah, and so
Perfect.
we took that and I was like, let's try and do, because I was like, let's have a. I wanted to raise money for charity, but I also wanted to do a birthday party, kind of combine them all, and so combine all these ideas together. So I ended up doing, the first year was 3 days. I planned it out. We didn't really have, it was all in like a Discord chat. We didn't have an actual physical Discord yet. We were just trying, a bunch of friends connecting. Scoot was there, so Ministry was there, but it was so scuffed. Year one was so scuffed because we didn't really have the tools or the communication or the teams, and everything was just kind of all over the place. The world creator wasn't in communication with us, so we weren't able to get codes to say the lighting or the dance or the door to the stage, the dancer platforms. And so there was a lot of stuff that we needed to improve on from year one. And year one it was great. I think we raised like a 1,500 for Fight for the Forgotten. And but that year one was kind of the catalyst and learning curve for everything else following. We had to fail in order to succeed, and I think year one wasn't so much a failure as it was, holy cow, that just happened. It was a lot of work that some of it didn't turn out the way we wanted it, and a lot of it, just there were things that we could have cleaned up. So year two came along, and this year we had World Creator. We were gonna sit down with and start preparation for the world, and I think we were like 4 months away from actually doing the festival. They backed out, and we had to kind of scramble and get another World Creator and get them to revamp one of their old ones. And it worked, but it wasn't quite where we wanted it. It just wasn't GearFest. It was like, we're taking this map and revamping it to look like something cool. It was a festival, but it wasn't. It was by this group of people in their world, and it wasn't GearFest. It wasn't customized to the level of everyone knowing, oh, this is the GearFest world. It was like, oh, that we're revamping, instead of, oh, it's by them. Okay. So it was just, year two was kind of a learning curve, but it was super successful. Year two was even more successful. Kind of like I was saying before, it was year one, super scuffed. We got some connections. Things were kind of flowing. Year two, super successful. We had a lot of VTubers and people involved in that, and we had dance teams. And again, shout out to Ministry, hooking all of that up. And the coordination of that went really well. We had a very successful event. And we, again, making those connections is so important. And while we were working on all that, just the connections alone gave me the opportunity to be able to do this year. So 2025 rolls around. Well, and to anybody wanting to start something like this, first off, it's a massive undertaking. It is so, if you don't have the right connections to start, you're going to struggle a lot, because you have to make those connections. You have to collaborate with other artists and content creators in the space, and get to know them. You have to really get to know them. Like I said earlier, the constant communication between groups is so important for something to be successful. So that was one thing I've always tried to push, is stay in communication with everybody, so that we're not at a loss when it comes to the actual event. Of the actual day shows up, and some of the security team has no idea what times they're supposed to be on the floor doing security because they weren't at the meeting. Communication's super important. So year 2 was really, really good. It went well for the was just it went smoother. It went smoother than year 1. So, but there was that mad scramble because nothing was perfect, because we scrambled because the world creator we originally dropped out. So it was like, a mad dash, and it wasn't perfect. And while we made it work, it just wasn't GearFest. So, year 3, this year comes around, we end up reaching Virtual Lily and Aztec, and we all kind of start getting the gears are turning at this point. The gears start turning, and we again, that constant communication of pitching ideas and what do we want this to look like. Here's the theme, and you could start with this, and So in production, we started in September. We start, way months in advance. We start months in advance, and then progressively get the world built, and then kind of get the DJs in and get all their info in the channel so I can go through it and research all the DJs. And there's so much actual research that goes into preparing for something on a scale this big. So we in production we decided, Scoot, me, and others decided we were going to do a different charity this year. So with, like I was saying earlier, the hurricanes hit the coast, and we decided to go with the American Red Cross. And it worked out fantastic, and it was such a cool experience to be able to work towards that common goal of raising money for side of VR that would actually make an impact on people's lives outside of this space. And that's again, since year 1 has been such a cool thing to see and be a part of. But it takes a lot of work. So implementing all of that into the event, months of preparation, months of planning and coordination, constant. We would have a meeting every single month. We would have one every single month leading up to the event. And those meetings are so beneficial and crucial to having everything flow as smooth as possible, because everybody's aware of what's on. Everybody's, oh yeah, we had a meeting about that, and here's the times, and here's this, and oh, ready because prepared. So it's just a lot of work in getting everything set up. And then the week of, like we talked about earlier, was we got to test the world out, stress test the world, make sure everything's going. And then night 1 of the festival is always, it's always kind of like, okay, here we go. We're going to try and test everything. I hope everything. And then, it's kind of the test for the video player and the lighting, and making sure the world capacity doesn't, you don't crash, because, just making sure everything works essentially is kind of the night 1. And then from there on, the team, I think after night 1, we were up like for 12 straight hours trying to get the world fixed, whatever bugs we had, whatever issues we had. The team was just up and grinding fixing everything. And then night 2 came around, and a lot of the issues that we had on night 1 non-existent, because we'd work through them as a team. So it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but it pays off. If you're dedicated and you want something on this scale, you have to, like I said, first have a good community of people around you. That's such a important in anything you do. I mean, Rob Roman's voice, this podcast would not have been possible had it not been a good team around you, right? So, anytime you're doing something, whether it's a small little birthday party or something like GearFest, you have to have a good team to start. That's kind of where you start. Have a good team and stay in communication, and then just work together towards the common goal. It's a lot of free time, a lot of time that you invest into something like this is just time. It's all for, you donate your time essentially to something like this. And it's worth it. At the end of the day, it's worth it. Not so much, oh, I'm DJ Gearbolt, I did GearFest, it's the biggest thing in VR. Like, who cares? I want to improve the communities. I want to improve the connection between the communities. just in community leaders, but the VRChat DJs and the dancers and the teams and all of the other community like groups and clubs. The connections that they make will last for years. The collaborative effort between everybody is going to last for years, and they can go off and do their own separate events because they connected at GearFest or at this event. And because that was such a cool thing to see post GearFest, was the amount of people that were like, man, I got this and this, and we connected here, and like this happened, this opportunity came to me because this club saw me perform at GearFest, and now I'm playing here at this club. And it's really cool to see the whole experience to this point.
It's also very inspiring to hear, especially as you continue to progress year after year. The fact that even this year alone, like you said, raising over $5,400 for the American Red Cross, and I think a lot of people are remiss over the fact that I know for one thing, my father does not like the American Red Cross, but I think he's not getting enough research in and understanding of the things that the American Red Cross has to get done and the turnaround rate of which they need their donations. I used to be a blood donor. And the thing about the blood donation at American Red Cross is that blood does not stay fresh for long. So when you do give blood, they have to either A, use it, or if it's not readily usable to anybody, then it gets thrown out, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Luckily for all of us, we can regenerate our blood. But but that's just the thing too, is that when you do have an emergency crisis, the way that it happened on both sides of the country, it's not like they're able to just pull money out of their butt, but or even the public broadcast system, like that's been going on for ages, and it was funded by viewers like you, and all of that is super detrimental for a lot of habitat aid, to be able to help out the human experience, and just like you said, having VRChat, an area, a game, people that are passionate in this game. We all have our passions that lie somewhere, and being able to not only donate for yourself. Mind you, you could just do that. You could just get up on that website and throw $20 and feel good about yourself, or donate your blood and get some cookies and crackers and apple juice. But because you're a part of an entire community that wants to help out, you have now broadened your horizon when it comes to that sort of stuff. So just hearing that alone this past year, and all the different groups, and not even just DJ communities in here, but tons of other, the furry community, also for Ferality donating thousands of dollars to specific functions. It's mind-numbing, because I think a lot of us, they just see the number, but they don't see the actual, all the money on the table, they just think of it, the number, and you're like, well, that's just the number. But just as you said before, people are starting to pick up on this, and they're starting to realize the economy that we have in here, the social aspect, and how we want to help our communities, but be able to be the leader forefront on this. There's so many other virtual reality things out there, but we're number one. We're in here, and we're doing really good things, as well as your continued passion to not only hold these massive events that I think a lot of people want to either create their own event or be a part of something much larger, but you're able to use that as a gateway for anybody that wants to come in and either perform or be on staff or even help out with the donation efforts. So obviously kudos to the whole team of GearFest, as well as yourself, for putting this on. But it's also kind of I don't want to say ring the bell, because ring the bell because you succeeded, but ring the bell to be able to say we all can do double that. We could do so much more, in the future. And the fact that, let alone some clubs in here are really getting work done. We're really making a difference in this game, but it's just a matter of that is translating it to the people that have no idea what we're doing in here. Kind of like when that group of group of IT engineers that breached the government or something, and they were a group of furries. They were just oh, what do you mean the furries are breaking into the government? What? But now they know. And now that it's like the furries
Yeah,
got the
so
furries know what's good.
it's kind of funny you mentioned the furry community because I went to a fur convention. The first one I'd ever been to, I think it was 2023. I'd never been to anything like that. Now, I played VRChat. VRChat was super familiar to me, but I'd never been to a fur convention. So I ended up going. I think it was 3 days long. I didn't end up staying the whole third day, but it was awesome. It was so cool to be around that community. It was different. It was something completely different. I'd never been around furries before. And let me tell you, they're smart. There are a lot of furries that are like IT smart, and they are changing the landscape of this game entirely. Like a majority of the production for a lot of the worlds in VR chat, they're furries. Like the furries are building so many things in this game, and it's awesome. So at that fur convention, they had a whole panel just dedicated to VR chat and introducing people that had never played it, explaining what it was. Here's the baseline of what VR chat is, and then they had another class the next day on how to build your own avatar from scratch, to downloading assets, to implementing it into Unity, and they had all 3 days they had classes on VR chat, and I thought that was so cool. It was so cool because it opened that door to people that had never had that experience to be able to have that experience. And there were so many people that in that class, because I'd only peeked my head in a couple times during the event, but people were just writing notes down and on their computer typing up notes and on how to do things, and seeing that interest was so cool. But it was because people opened that door. The furry community opened that door to VR chat and saying, hey, here's what we can do. If you're not comfortable buying a fursuit, maybe you should get a VR headset and try wearing one in VR. You know, experiment a little bit. So there were that opportunity, that avenue was open to a lot of people that weren't aware of it, I guess.
Very funny to be able to go to some anime conventions with all the different things that you have done in virtual reality. And I actually got to experience that. I believe it was it was in February when I was DJing at a convention. I sat in at it was a panel about furs and raves, and kind of just sat in the back, and there were lots of people asking questions about the fur community in VR chat. I'm just over here just kind of like the spinning my wheels, just being like, I wonder what they're gonna say. like
Yeah.
do they know that I'm a DJ in virtual kind of a thing about that?
That was my
That was
thought.
really
I was
funny
like,
with that.
yeah, that was my thought too. Was like, these people are just getting the little tip of the iceberg. They have no idea what capable of happening in VR chat, because the scale is so massive. Like yeah, we're just giving a little introduction on little Abbies and cute little fox you could wear, and then in grand scheme, here's GearFest, baby. Yeah,
This
let's
is
go.
entire festival
Yeah.
that's spanning 4 days.
Dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. But this is VRCDJ Live. We have we're coming up towards the top of the hour, so we still have a little bit of time to talk a lot about stuff. But I want to kind of move ahead with DJ Gearbolt as our guest today. Obviously, with GearFest, we might be seeing more of it next year. I know you got your gears turning. Funny joke. But at the same time too, you made a really aggressive announcement. And it's, well, not aggressive as like an angry announcement, but a really turning point in either your life and your career. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in the next couple of months.
I am going on tour this year. I will be touring the US this 2025, starting May 1st. I leave for Salt Lake City. I'm going to be going on tour across the US and down the East Coast. I've never visited the East Coast, so I figure, why not? So I bought a cargo van. I have been, for the past month, building it out into a camper. I'm going to be doing some van life and, live streaming and doing things from the van. I'm going to be doing shows across the U.S. I've got a ton of cities picked, and you can go to djgearbolt.com to check out all the cities. It's been a lot of planning and preparation from a couple years ago. I just started saving money for something like this, because I'm doing it on my own dime and my own time, and trying to do this whole journey is crazy. I mean, who does this? It's just wild. So essentially, I'm building the van. The van's pretty close to completion right now, and I'm whole thing. So it's all available on my YouTube channel. The build is coming along really well. And once it's done, we're gonna hit the road and just go see all these cities and experience life outside of, I'm in Utah. There's not a lot of stuff here, and so I want to go see some stuff on the East Coast and all the way down the East Coast. I'm gonna be visiting. So if you're on the East Coast, I'm coming to a city near you this year. It's going to be crazy. I'm going to be doing pop-up shows. I have everything I need to do a show anywhere. I can just set everything up and DJ. From CDJs to speakers to power, I have everything I need. So I'm very excited. GearFest is just kind of the VR side of things that I enjoy producing and creating, and having these work together on that is so cool. And this is kind of my side project. It's kind of getting my name out there to people that aren't quite as familiar with me as an artist, and I want to open avenues of that to people that have never seen me before and be able to show up, unannounced, to be like, hey, I'm DJ Gear. I'm going to play you an hour show just in the middle of a park or something. So I'm very excited. It's a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of work to get this whole thing done. But yeah, I'm going on tour. It's going to be crazy.
It's super unique, even when you started to, like, we were talking about getting you on the show, and literally maybe like 4 days later, that's when you made this announcement on YouTube. And I'm just sitting here being like, oh my gosh, like, way to just open this up for discussion, because not only is what you're attempting to do is pretty much like any person your age's dream come true, being able to just get in a car, drive, go to a thing, as opposed to like maybe going to Europe and backpacking through Europe or something. But like the way that you're adding in this approach is not only super unique based on you and your living style and out in Utah, but also too, like, there are genuinely a ton of people in this game that want to be able to do exactly what you're doing, and you're giving them an avenue of saying, go to my website, take a look at the podcast. We'll be posting every day. Let me show you what we get to experience, and again, people know you in here, so they're going to automatically trust the stuff that you're kind of doing when you're in this van, living in a van. We see it all the time, see people breaking down buses or vans or U-Hauls or whatever. But it's also super fun to be able to see what you have to think about the East Coast, because that's all I've been, is the East Coast boy, up and down as far north as Maine, as far south as Florida. So I mean, that's all I've ever known. So it's nice for you to kind of come into our territory and be like, what do we do here and how do we get down here? Comparable to me trying to go out to Utah and go, is there anything more? Whatever. I know. I just know the mountains when I fly over to go to California. But at the same time, too, like, all of that is just, it's unique. And I think a lot of people should definitely feed into not only djgearbolt.com, but also on YouTube as well, to be able to do and get a better understanding. So, like, talk to me a lot more about, I want to say a little more about this because we are a little short on time, but like, again, this is a very interesting topic. So what are you trying to expect out of, I know you said one of the things that you were kind of focusing in on is trying to find a better place to live, or an understanding of a nice place to live. What is that to you? What is a nice place to live for you?
Well, that's just the thing, is I don't know. The whole reason that I'm doing this tour, not just to get my name out there and to get more notoriety of people that may not have heard of me before, but that's kind of a side thing. But like you were saying, I want to find a new place to live, and I've loved Utah. Utah's been fantastic, but it's not home. It's not where I want to settle in and set up my future life, right? So that's the main reason I'm doing it. And I want to go see the East Coast because, first off, I've never been there, so being able to have the opportunity to see that and be able to experience something new, because there's so much to see, and a lot of people don't get the opportunity to just pack everything up and go, and I have that opportunity, and I'm gonna, make the most out of it, because it's such a experience being able to see all of these cities. And I have planned, I mean, I've been preparing for this for a year and a half now, in preparation from picking the cities, picking the route, picking my itinerary of everything I'd like to do in each different city and things I want to visit. And all of that's been just planned out for years in preparation, and it's finally all starting to come to fruition and come together. And I'm just excited to see new things, new horizons, meet new people. There's a lot of people from VRChat that I will be hanging out with in person. I'm gonna meet them. Scoot being one of those people, I'm gonna go hang out with Scoot. Should be pretty cool. And being able to connect with people from this game in real life is going to be an experience. Something that some people get that experience, because I mean, there are IRL meetups. I know many Discords do IRL meetups. They'll set, here's we're going to get an Airbnb. You guys can donate or pitch in on it, and we'll all just meet up and hang out. That's actually quite common in, this space. So but being able to do it on my own time and my own dime is something I've wanted for years, and it's finally starting to come together. So
It might be a good foresight on understanding, what it is, what living is like out in Utah comparable to. I'm not saying that it gets any better when you get towards Florida, besides the nice weather. That's par usual. But
yeah.
but at the same time too, comparable to, let's just say you decide to get a hot dog or a cheeseburger in New York City. Obviously that's going to be. I mean, you could say that you've done
Yeah.
that, but at the same time, it's like, if what's a $20 burger, I guess, but. At the same time too, understanding all of that. Now, what you were saying, how you have your CDJs, you got speakers, you got to have power, and I know you said you were kind of gonna dabble a little bit with virtual reality, maybe on desktop, and probably come in here and say hi every so often. But one of the main functions of the van outside of sleeping and living is the podcast and understanding the podcast. And getting an understanding between there's no real proper way of asking this question outside of the modern norm of people are podcasting, people are recording their lives. You have some people that have families with kids, and they'll go to Disney and they'll photograph everything or video it, and the same thing goes with van life, is that it is kind of a popular thing to do, comparable to, I don't know, living in an apartment or what have
Right.
you. But are you low key looking to kind of spark that influencer content creator train again when it comes to the podcast that you are creating in your van?
100%. So I'm saying 100% a lot, but
It's
yeah.
better than like 80% or like 60%.
Yeah, no, really though. Yeah, so the build of the van is centered around the podcast. For those of you that don't know, I have a podcast called The JH Show, and I've been doing it since Halloween. It was Halloween weekend 2017. I started a podcast in my basement apartment, and it was fun. We just sat down and talked about whatever, bullshitted about whatever for an hour, and it was cool. But through the years, I've tried to keep it going, and it's become stagnant sometimes, where there's been weeks where I don't even do an episode, kind of like now, where I'm focused on the van build. I don't have time to do the episode. So the main build is going to be centered around the podcast. So I've got the interface, I've got the microphones, I've got everything I need. It's pretty much just soundproofed so that we can do a podcast. And it's just like this. It's you and I sitting down and talking for an hour or whatever, just talking about life and experiences. And it'll also, you would mention the influencer thing. While that's part of it, I think the main goal of the podcast is to kind of journal the journey, and be able to interview people from all over the US as I'm doing my tour, sit down with people from VRChat. Maybe I'll sit down with Scoot and we'll have a podcast in my van. It's kind of the centerpiece of what I am building this out to be, is a podcast studio on wheels, as well as I'm going to be DJing shows and doing all of that along the way. But having multiple avenues for content creation, the more avenues you have for that, the more opportunity you will get to be successful in the industry of whether it's podcasting or just making content in general. The more avenues for production that you have, the better.
Seeing that content creation and well, obviously doing stuff on Twitch for a lot of people, especially over the past several years. I ain't gonna just say since COVID, because I mean COVID definitely opened
Yeah,
that just
yeah.
wide up. But at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time too, it's just like not only focusing attention on the content creation side of it, but I think even the younger generation, when they are starting their journey, either through entertainment or gaining fame or fandom or stuff like that, they are leaning heavily into what you're doing. Now, the good thing about what you're doing, the real reality of it all, and the boomers can get on with this. They really can. The fact that you're documenting all of the things that you ever have wanted to do in the past. I've heard it several times, either through myself or my parents or my grandparents or anybody else. They're just like, oh, I wish I should have saved the pictures from high school, or I should have,
Right.
I don't know, whatever. Even my dad, he has VHS tapes of like when he was a kid at a park, what back when cameras existed,
Yeah.
like when they were
Right.
just getting out, and
Right.
then he had them like digitally enhanced through Walmart's photo department or whatever. So he has that, and he could showcase that experience. But there's just right now, it's so awesome because either A, you have the technology of being able to do that. B, you're going to want to save that because somewhere in the future, you're going to be like, I remember when I did this. Here's the physical evidence that I
Yep.
did this.
Yep.
But that's the other problem of it too, is just the fact that like there's so many people out there that are ready to throw you under the bus because you're just like, I'm in that demographic that I'm going to gut a van and I'm going to go everywhere and film it all.
Yeah.
But in reality, maybe they're just jealous because like they
Yep.
didn't think of it first, or the fact that while it is a popular thing, maybe they should have done it and they didn't do it. So I don't know,
Yep.
maybe they should get on it now while they have the opportunity to do it.
Well, and not everybody has the opportunity to do that. Excuse me. Not everybody gets the opportunity to do that, but then again, not everybody wants to do what I'm doing. Some people are just quiet observers. Some people want to watch the whole experience from their phone, from the comfort of their phone, and that's perfectly fine. The thing that I think separates people from the people that are sitting on their phone watching it and the people that are such as myself doing it are there's the viewers and doers. If you really want to do this, you can do it. Now, granted, I've been saving up money to do this for years now and just trying to get everything lined up and preparations. And there's been years in planning and in preparation and getting everything ready. It's a process. And if you're going to do it, whether that's, van life or GearFest or a festival in VRChat, I mean, something along the lines of that, and you want to do it, figure out what it takes. Start doing some research. Figure out the connections you need to make it happen, and make it happen. Don't sit around saying, maybe next year we'll put an event on and it'll be really cool. Maybe's a maybe. It might not even happen. You've got to take action. You have to take action, or nothing will change. And it's one of the most important things in my life that I've gained is the knowledge of take action. When I was in VR, I seen someone DJing and I want to do that. I took action, bought an SB3 and took action again and learned how to DJ and learned all of the equipment. And it's all about, the learning experience. If you're serious about something, whether it's a podcast like this or DJing, you have to take action or nothing's going to change.
Now, when it comes to the van life and going from state to state to state, along with your podcast journey and understanding DJing and stuff like that, what are your hopes to learn out? Because you've learned how to DJ in virtual reality, again, learning to bridge the gap of trying to connect with either promoters, clubs, going to clubs, learning about what those clubs look like, and again, kudos to you if you decide to pay like a $55 cover charge just to go in to see what it looks like. At least you'll know. But what are your like future hopes and goals when it comes to your DJing career, as opposed to like, because I would assume as a musician and as a producer, you can open up a DAW, you can open up, you have your audio interface. That would be super simple. You could legit record almost anywhere nowadays. But when it comes to DJing, getting those opportunities, it does require a little bit more networking. What are your hopes and dreams for the future for DJing as Gearbolt, even through IRL applications?
So my manager, when I met my manager, this was oh man, this would have been 2022, roughly. He sat me down. I mean, we were on a Zoom call, but we sat down and he was like, "Where do you want to be in the next 10 years or 5 years? You know, where do you see yourself realistically?" And, I told him I want to eventually, I want to be main stage at Tomorrowland or EDC, a big festival. That's where I want to be. Realistically, in the next 10 years, that's where I want to be is main stage, EDC, Tomorrowland, those festivals. That's where I want to be. Now, this tour that I'm going on is going to, again, like you said, you have to connect and do all of that with other, whether it's clubs or people. You have to do the work and actually talk to them and collaborate with other artists. That's another thing I'm going to be doing. I mean, this is an announcement. This is an announcement. This is the first time anyone's hearing this, so this is kind of a big announcement. I was waiting until this show to actually announce this. I have a new album coming out within the next, probably the end of this year. I'm gonna have most of it done. It probably won't come out till spring of next year, but album is in progress and it is huge. It is 20 songs. Some of them aren't even titled yet, but I have 20 tracks laid out for this album. I am going to, as I'm touring the US, I'm collaborating with artists that I like or hang out with or meet. Maybe I go to a club and someone's DJing and I like them. I talk to them afterwards. Hey, let's collaborate. Hop in the back of my van, boy. we're gonna collaborate. Yeah, I'm going to be collaborating with other artists, and they'll be involved in making this album. It's a lot of work, and we kind of talked about music production earlier, but it's a lot of work from getting vocals or you bring in a new artist and you're trying to collaborate with them. That's so much work, and the production side of things can take months to years on maybe even a single track. Maybe you don't like the way it sounds and you spend months and years getting it perfected. And I'm not so much a perfectionist as others may be. I know what I like my sound to sound like, but when I involve other artists and have that collaboration, it opens up the avenue a little bit to where it's like, here's a different sound, something I've never worked with before, whether it's a rapper or an EDM vocalist, and you implement that into my style, and then it gives me more practice and more knowledge in the full production of and production value of the album itself. So that's a big announcement. I'm pretty excited for that. It's going to come out, like I said, probably spring of next year. And yeah, it's one of those things. It's another piece of content that I'm going to be working on alongside of the podcast and doing shows.
Your energy is so ambitious, man. It's so I'm able to soak it up and and being able to be motivated on all these big projects. And I feel like a lot more people need to take a page from the Gearbolt Bible, the Gearbolt book, journal, diary, whatever you want to call it. Journey, let's say journey, because everybody should be able to find their own way of motivating yourselves or feeding the energies and the passions that you have, and being able to learn about these types of passions along with your lineage of music and everything that you've done in this scene. Everything's kind of flowing, and obviously I wish you great success on trying to learn about everything in what the country has to offer compared to, again, getting your name out there, collaborating with a lot of other people, because in this social simulation that we call VRChat, wouldn't you believe it, collaboration happens a lot. And when you also believe it, that the people that you meet in here could potentially help you with a future career, somewhere down the line. So definitely, again, people at home, take a page. This is what you should be, investing your time. Wake up every morning thinking that you're going to be doing some great things. Before we carry on out of here, we got a couple of rapid fire questions here that I love to ask our guests towards the end of the program. And one of those things happens to be that I love to ask: what would be the top 3 DJs that you would recommend watching in VRChat?
Man, okay. Tatsu Tracks. All right, I love Tatsu. Tatsu's a good friend. He's my number one currently. I mean, this list will fluctuate. Top three. I mean, you had to do it to me. Oh, all right. So Tatsu Treks, probably my favorite right now. If you know, go check him out. I put 10XX up there. You've had 10XX on the show. 10XX, good friend of the show, and good friend of me and this show. And the third. Probably Wolf Nilo. If you haven't seen Wolf Nilo, go check out Wolf. Wolf has been part of GearFest since year one. I've known Wolf for many years. He's also in the IRL circuit. So if you get to see him IRL, you get the opportunity to see him IRL, take it. And the same goes for 10XX and Tatsu even. Tatsu's doing IRL stuff now too. So big shout out to those guys. Those are probably my top three right now.
Some real busy bodies in VRChat, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They're always constantly here performing. If you had to offer just a roundabout word of advice to either the DJs in this community, the people that are in this community, the things that you want to be able to tell the community of a word of advice, what would that be?
Constant creation moves mountains. Constant creativity moves mountains. So be as creative as possible. Don't hold yourself back because you think somebody's approval matters. Do it because you enjoy it. You like the creation. GearFest wouldn't have happened had it not been for a lot of creativity and creative minds, and just the cogs need the gears need to be in motion. So constantly create, and if you're not enjoying what you're doing, you know, maybe adjust a little bit, find a different avenue. If you're not enjoying being a VRChat dancer, maybe transition over to VRChat security for a month and try that. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll really like it. Maybe you'll go from VRChat security team to end up doing your own. You become a promoter and a booker, you know, and then you take that skill and, hey, there's a club downtown that had just opened up. They happen to be looking for somebody for an event coordination. You now have the skills to do that because of platforms like VRChat. And that would be my piece of advice, is just constantly create.
Do you think people get flustered every time they see you perform, being like, "Oh my gosh, DJ Gearbolt, is he that same guy that does GearFest?"
No, it's funny because this last GearFest, I was literally sitting there talking to people, and there were people that didn't know who I was, and that didn't have the connection that, oh, this is the GearFest creator. So, yeah.
It's kind of a risk for almost everybody too. Like, you know, it's funny too because like Poyomi is an actual person, and they're constantly
right.
people using Poyomi for everything in this game. It just seems like you can't tell me that you're coming into VRChat as Poyomi the guy, you know, being the guy, or like, you know, something like that. But it's always very fun. Lastly, where can people find you on the internet?
So djgearbolt.com. I have the website. You can also find me on YouTube, Instagram, any piece of social media you have, I am on it. I mean, even the obscure ones. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, DJ Gearbolt on all social medias, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, DJ Gearbolt is where you'll find me.
And super important to make sure you hit up the YouTube to be able to see what you got, whether it's the van or when you're traveling. When's the first date that you're leaving?
I leave for Salt Lake City on May 1st. I will be doing my first show in Salt Lake, downtown Salt Lake. I'll be doing my first show at Liberty Park on the 3rd, so it's a Saturday. Still got to pick the times and stuff, but yep, that's the plan.
And all the dates for the tour is up at djgearbolt.com. So, DJ Gearbolt, thank you for coming on the show and hanging out with us and just kind of spitting for a while.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
Yeah, I would definitely want to get you back on so we can continue to figure out how that whole tour went and your experiences down the road, no doubt. But for those people at home, that's going to do it for us for our show. Of course, for our guest, DJ Gearbolt. We have another cracked lineup for you for April, if you weren't here a couple weeks ago, to kind of see what we have going on down the line. Next week, we're going to be joined by Rave Aid. It is a big old group of people that not only put on shows in VRChat, but they have a lot of very fun things to talk about with mental mental health and making sure that people are doing raving with a purpose and taking care of themselves. So we got them coming for you next week on Thursday, followed by the VRCDN queen herself, I suppose. Jazzy Senpai is going to be joining us in the studio to not only talk about their whole process of DJing, but I think a lot of people have a lot of questions on how the VRCDN not only changes the game, but how it's all put together for our communities as well. Followed at the end of the month, we'll be joined by legendary DJ Miss Stabby will be joining us, who's been just so prolific in our scene, not only performing all over the place, but just an innovative individual in our thing. We have a full lineup for you up on X and up on Blue Sky at VRCDJLIVE. Of course, you can see all the replays and highlights on YouTube at VRCDJLIVE. So, for DJ Gearbolt, our guest, and the VRCDJLIVE staff, I'm Rob Roman, and thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you guys next week.